Welcome back to the Manor. Julian McBain here, and we are back on the hunt for robots. We've actually been doing pretty good hunting robots. Mindark saw fit to rearrange my stacks. Thanks, Mindark. Consume. And you know what? We'll do an auto loot as well. What the hell? So today I want to talk about something that I've run into recently. I've been wrestling with it for roughly 2 weeks. And I'm just going to kind of express thoughts, and I'm going to try to suss this out. So often what I do on here is I talk about stuff, and I'm not trying to instruct or anything like that. I'm thinking. This is active thinking. And that's why I have these conversations with you, and that's basically, this is kind of like what you would see as it's a one-sided conversation, obviously, because of course I can't hear your side of the conversation, but you can of course comment, and I really appreciate those comments. But I run into a conundrum, and so I want to kind of run through it with you and see if I can't figure it out by talking it out. But before we get started, if you're new to the channel, welcome to the Manor. Please take a moment and subscribe down below. We are on the road to 13 million subscribers, one subscription at a time, so make sure you subscribe. Also, please go to patreon.com/JulianMcBain if you want to support my work. If you do, you'll get exclusive content. And, yeah, hope to see you there. So, okay, what's the conundrum? The conundrum is my value set is usually... I've been fairly consistent with my values throughout time. Some have changed as I have learned. Oftentimes they are minor adjustments rather than major ones. But overall, my values have remained fairly static. Now, the structure in which I place those values has changed and evolved over time, particularly my religious ones, but that doesn't mean that the overall value system that I hold, the things that I hold to be dear and valuable and important, have not fundamentally changed. Perhaps just the expression of those things. And so I was hit with a bit of a shock when I discovered that I ran into an issue where I have two parts of my value set that actually contradict each other. It's not easy for them to do because, generally speaking, the way that my values are organized, they should not be able to do that except under really extreme circumstances. And so it's one of those situations where I've got to make a decision about it, and I don't have much time on what I'm going to do. And so I'm not going to get too far into the absolute situation, because what I don't want to do is that this involves an organization, and I don't want to. I'm not here to call the organization out. I'm not here to like air dirty laundry or any shit like that. But I do want to go through the issue, and it's revolving around the global current event that's been plaguing us quite literally for the last 18 months, and privacy. And so I'm running into this where they're putting in a rule that, in my opinion, violates people's privacy. And it's not like I'm really subject all that much to it. It will not overly negatively impact me personally, nor will it negatively impact anyone in my family, except it's a violation of our privacy. It could, however, negatively impact others. And I've brought that to the attention of the people in charge. And I'm like, hey guys, this is kind of violative. This is a gross violation of privacy, but it's also, could cause a lot of problems. And I ran through it, and I said, at worst, someone might have the guts to throw out some serious legal challenges because it's a very niche area, and it was brushed off and brushed aside, and the most extreme case isn't going to happen, but I always bring up the possibilities. That's just the way I am. Being a politician, it's kind of what I'm supposed to do, is I'm supposed to look at all of the different factors. And no, I haven't held office yet, but I haven't held a public office yet. I've held office in various organizations that have basically the same function. But it's not the point. The point is that I know the process, and I've written bills, and I've done those things, and not to say any of them have ever been passed, but I've written them, and that's not nothing. And knowing the way that some people act and stuff, and so I threw all the things out there. I'm like, I'm concerned about this, and I'm concerned about this, and at the very least, it's a gross violation of people's privacy. And so now I'm kind of faced with a conundrum, because I have my principles and I have my values, but I also value what the organization does and the things I do in it. And here is where the schism lies, because the principled thing to do would be to refuse to participate anymore. It would be to walk away until they remove the rule. I could even go so far as to return any honors that I may or may not have with the organization back to them. And that's one possibility. And that would be the principled thing to do in many aspects. However, there is value in voluntarily taking on the suffering of being forced to comply to something under protest and under duress. Because when people see that you are willing to continue to support an organization while vocally protesting the actions of the organization because you value the mission so much, that's equally valuable in my opinion. And so that's where I am having trouble, because on principle I want to tell them that I'm done. I'm out. You've punched me in the face too many times. Later. But I value what the organization does way too much. And that makes it really hard, because the things I do there, I can't do anywhere else, at least not locally. And so I run into this conundrum, and I run into this problem. My faith, my principle says to just walk away. My faith sees the value in participating under duress, in participating in the activities and accepting the restrictions under duress, because that's what the central figure of my religion did. And there's a certain value in suffering, because you learn more when you suffer than when you don't. And more people can learn more from you if they observe your suffering than if they see your defiance, in a lot of ways. Now, the defiance is important. The defiance is important because then enough people walking away would cause them could force them to reverse the decision. But the chances of that happening are very, very low. And so that's a problem too, is you have to have a certain amount of popular support. That doesn't really work. And so this is where I run into this issue, where I've got to figure out what is the best course of action. And the best course of action isn't obvious. Because if I stand on principle and I walk away and I lose this extremely important part of my life, then at least in a lot of ways I've been intellectually consistent. Actually, in every way I've been intellectually consistent. But at the same time, I've even pushed back on people who say, under no circumstances comply with certain things. I'm like, well, you know what? Some people have kids. And again, that falls under the second one. That falls under the more faith-based argument of there is value in suffering and in showing people that you suffer under duress and that there is a better way. But you are willing to suffer for the greater, for the betterment of all, and to show other people that what is happening is wrong. And in fact, that actually happened in Nazi Germany. There was a teacher who was teaching a group of Jewish students, and the teacher was, you know, forced to lead the students to the gas chamber, and they pulled the teacher aside and they're like, you don't have to go in, because he was German, and well, he was not Jewish, and the man said he wouldn't leave his students, and of course he died with them. And there was definitely a point to be made there. And to volunteer for execution just to comfort the children that you knew were going to die. And that's nowhere near what I'm facing here. It's nowhere near what I'm facing here. And so, if I think about the courage of that man, some would say the foolishness, but I think it took a lot of courage, because he stood by his convictions unto death. But he still was willing to suffer for them. And he was willing to be put... He was willing to be forced to suffer even though he didn't have to. He could have walked away. I mean, there's the obvious Jesus on the cross story, which I don't need to repeat here, because even if you haven't, I'm sure most, if not all of you, have heard some variation of it at least once. And that's, again, that's an extreme case, but it's the example I am looking at. You know, because he made his point, and because of that, now he has the faith he founded. It has the largest following in the world because he was willing to suffer, and he didn't have to. He could have walked away. And I don't think that I'm not looking to do that by any stretch of the imagination. I just want to continue doing what I do with an organization that I have loved and participated in for 15 years. It's not an easy decision to make. And I know I'm taking some really extreme examples, and the only reason I use them is because I don't have lesser examples. And that makes it tough. That makes it very, very tough. And so I'm not trying to play a martyr by any stretch of the imagination, not deliberately. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to provide the closest allegory I can find that I can work into it, where I can kind of draw the same conclusion. And this has been one of the toughest decisions I have had to make in a long time. A long time. In fact, this is the toughest decision I've had to make since I had to decide whether or not I was going to leave Vermont and move out west, which had mixed results. Benefits in the long run with a lot of short-term run drawbacks. And what I think is going to end up happening is no matter what decision I make, that's going to be the result. And so it's one of those situations where I have to decide not necessarily what's the best decision, but which one is the least bad. And I have found in life that is the most common conundrum we face. 99 times out of 100 when making a decision... No, I can't say that. Probably 8 out of 10 times when making a major decision, you have to decide not what is the best decision, but which one is the least bad. And that's the decision I face here. And that's not a great position to be put in. And I'm going to regret what I choose no matter what I do. Because on a matter of my principles, I should walk away. I should absolutely walk away. At the very least, I should do so quietly, although there are people who would say I should do so as loudly as possible so people might actually listen. Or at least hear. I would be the one to quietly step aside. I actually did it once with that organization just last year over other issues, and I was convinced to return just to get punched in the face with this. My faith says there's value in suffering, and the best way I can show others that what's being done is wrong is to suffer through it. And then when it's all over, give forgiveness. And it's tough. It is tough. And I know I've been booking some strange topics as of late, and I appreciate everyone who watches these. Because I'm sure this is not what you are come here to expect. But these contradictions come up in people's lives, and I'm hoping this can be an example of a way to process things through, because it's that processing that's important for figuring things out. And those things are important. Because you're going to run into contradictions. You're going to run into things like this, where perhaps two of your values contradict each other and you're not able to suss them out. And it's going to be hard. So, okay guys. I hate to say this, but I think it's going to be a short one tonight, because I've said what I had to say, and without repeating myself, that would be kind of ridiculous. So I apologize that it's a short one, but I will try and make sure the next video is its normal length. And thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe down below. We are on the road to 13 million subscribers, one subscription at a time, so make sure you subscribe. And as always, I really appreciate the support, and I'll see you in the next one.